Welcome. This is a tutorial for the City of Philadelphia's Workforce Diversity Dashboard. The dashboard can be accessed at www.phila.gov/workforce-diversity. Within this tutorial, I will be going through each tab of the dashboard and explaining the visualizations on each tab and what we can learn from them. When you first come to the dashboard, you will be brought to this About page, where you can read about the dashboard, learn more about the Office of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, along with links to some of the laws, policies, and past reports that came before this dashboard. The second tab is the Municipal Workforce tab. This tab features data on all of the employees that work for the City of Philadelphia. On this tab, the data is broken down by race, ethnicity, gender, and age groups. At the top of this tab, we have City of Philadelphia employees, whereas on the bottom half of this tab, we can compare the employee metrics to Philadelphia resident metrics. The way to really dig into the data is to use the filters at the top right corner of the screen. On this tab, we have a filter for the date and a filter for position type. So currently, the date is set to December of 2022, but let's say we want to go back in time to June of 2022. So then we just select that date, and we see that the numbers have changed on the top indicator here, as well as the pie charts throughout this tab. Additionally, if you only want to look at certain types of positions, let's say we only want to look at exempt employees, meaning they do not go through the civil service process. You would check executive exempt and exempt to capture all of the exempt employees throughout the city. We can see that the numbers have updated to a little under 2,000 employees, and the pie charts have changed on the side here. You'll notice that as I hover around different graphs, the numbers will appear as well in case it's hard to read some of these smaller numbers. The metrics at the bottom are representative of Philadelphia residents living in the city in 2019. The data comes from the U.S. Census Bureau. Back in 2019, we had almost 1.6 million residents and about 1.2 million adult residents, meaning those over the age of 18. At the bottom here, the data is broken by total population, adults' race, and adults' ethnicity. Similarly, by gender, we have total population and adult population. And then over here, we also have the data broken up by age groups and then by education as well. For charts like this that may be too small to see and all of the data is squished together, there is this expand symbol that appears when you hover on each chart. And if you click it, it expands the chart and it's a lot easier to see the data. And then to unexpand it, you just click the same button. Moving on to the next tab, we have senior leadership. This data is broken into senior leaders, the mayor's cabinet, and then again, Philadelphia population in 2019. The top part, we have just the total number for each grouping. We have race and ethnicity below that, and then gender here. The filters at the top allow us to select by date. We can select position types, and then we can also select certain departments as well. We can see here for June of 2022, at this time, there were 41 employees that were considered senior leaders. We had 14 employees within the mayor's cabinet. And again, we have the metrics for Philadelphia residents in 2019. If we want to select certain positions, let's say this time we want to pick civil service employees, we can see here that there are not any civil service employees serving within the mayor's cabinet, but we do have 5 senior leaders. 80% of those senior leaders are white, 20% are Black or African American, 80% are male, and 20% are female. And then if we want to look at certain departments, you can type in the department you're looking for. We'll look at the Office of Innovation and Technology, click it, and we can see that the Office of Innovation and Technology has one senior leader. That is a white male. He does not serve in the mayor's cabinet. And then you can click reset if you want to see all of the data again. Moving on to the next tab, we have the data broken down by departments. We can see all the way to the left, we have the data broken down by race and ethnicity. In the middle, we have gender. And then all the way to the right, we have average base salary. The legend for the race and ethnicity is all the way at the very bottom here. The way each of these bar graphs work is it defaults to showing you the first 10 departments or offices alphabetically. But if we want to see other departments, you can type them in and select. I will just go through and select a few more at random. These are good for now. We'll look at these 4. And again, we can look at this data broken down at different dates, and you can select different position types as well if you prefer. Stacked bar graphs here. Each bar represents 100% of the population in the department. And so then you can compare proportions of race along here. We can compare proportions of gender. But then each slice of the stacked bar graph has a number as well. So we can see, there's 64 white employees within the Department of Public Property, which is a larger proportion of the white employees within Innovation and Technology, even though they have 162 white employees. And then over here, base salary is just averaged across the whole department, and we can see that Innovation and Technology in this case has the highest base salary, about a little over $82,000 a year. Moving on, we come to a salary tab. The salary tab is broken up to see the data by all employees, mayor's cabinets, senior leadership, and then again comparing these metrics to that of Philadelphia residents, where I have averaged the salary of Philadelphia residents in 2019 by race. And so here we can see the base salary of all employees by race. If you click the next tab within it, we are now looking at the base salary of all employees by gender. And then there's also a table to give the count or the number of employees per race and ethnicity. So that way you can understand how many Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander employees are contributing to this average. The breakdown is similar for the mayor's cabinet, where we can see the breakdown of base salary by gender, and then a count of those within the mayor's cabinet, and then same for senior leadership. And then we can also see the breakdown of Philadelphia residents. This is by race, the average base salary, and then by gender. The base salary data can be filtered by date, so we can look at some of that. We can again filter by position type if we want to look at all the exempt employees or maybe just the executive exempt. And then we can pick a specific department as well. Now the salary tab has another secondary tab. So we've been looking at base salary, but now we might want to look at salary range, where the data is split up similarly with all employees, mayor's cabinet, senior leadership, and then the Philadelphia resident information again. But this time we're looking at a range of salaries, and the breakdown of race and ethnicity is within each bar. So we can see here that within the 60 to 90,000 year range, 47% of the employees in that range are white, 37% are Black, and then if we want, we can hover here, we can see 4% are Asian, 9% are Hispanic or Latino, and then there's a very small percent for the rest of the racial categories. And on this data, we can again select by date if we want, and position type. Similar to base salary, the data is also broken up by gender, and then there's a count to show the number of employees that fall within these categories. Next up, we have a tab for new hires and separations. This data is broken up to show the number of new hires, the number of employees who chose to leave their position or were let go, and then those that were retired as well. We have the data broken down by race and ethnicity towards the top here, and then gender at the bottom. You can select the fiscal year that employees were hired or were separated. So if we want to go back to 2022, we can see that the data updates. We can select by position type, and then we can also select by department as well. So now what this dashboard is showing is the employees in the Department of Licensing and Inspection within fiscal year 2022. 17 employees were hired, 26 chose to leave or were let go, and 14 were retired. And then we have the racial breakdown and the gender breakdowns for each of those. Moving on, we can see employee metrics now over time. Starting with fiscal year 2019 and going up to fiscal year 2022, this is all employees and the percent of employees within the city broken down by race and ethnicity. This is employees in the mayor's cabinet and then employees within senior leadership. You can flip to the next tab as well to see the gender breakdown. There are two other secondary tabs in the Change Over Time tab. We can also look at just the overall count of departments over time. It's much easier to go in and select specific departments. So if we want to look at innovation and technology, we can see the count of employees throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. And there was a large spike here in 2022, and then going downward. We can also filter by position type if we just want to see maybe executive exempt employees. And you can also change the date range as well if we, for example, only wanted to see data starting in 2020 and going forward to today. And then we also have a similar new hires and separations tab where we're looking at the number of new hires over time starting back in March of 2019. You can filter this by position type, by specific race and ethnicities, gender. You can change the date range and look at different departments as well. You can do similar things on the separations tab here. Next, we have a couple of maps breaking down the municipal workforce by zip code. This first tab within the zip code map tab shows employees by race and ethnicity. Within this map here, you can zoom in and out. If you zoom in more, the zip codes will appear. You can click on different zip codes to learn more and see the breakdown of racial demographics of employees that live in that zip code. And if you click this layer icon, the layers open up and we can close the total employee layer and pick a different layer. So this now is just showing all of the Black employees that live within certain zip codes of the city. Darker blue means more employees, the lighter blue showing less employees. You can zoom out pretty far and see how far employees might live away from the city. This data is also available in table format as well. You can look at this data for previous fiscal years if we want to go into 2019. And then you can also choose to look at zip codes just inside of Philadelphia, outside of Philadelphia, or going back to show all zip codes. We have a similar map that breaks the data down by departments. So again, if we want to click on this, this is just showing all employees for fiscal year 2022, and you can scroll to see it broken down for which departments those employees work for within the city. And then again, if you want to select this layer icon, we can close total employees and pick a different department. So if we want to look at the Department of Planning and Development, we can see that it looks like all of their employees within fiscal year 2022 lived within the city. There are instructions here on the side if you need help using either of these maps. Finally, we do have a FAQ section that has a disclaimer about the data. We have different definitions that will be helpful to read to understand what we are referring to when we use specific terminology. And then we have some frequently asked questions that you can read about if you have any questions about the dashboard. And then all the way here at the bottom, we do have contact information if you need to get in contact with a department at the city that helped collaborate to make this dashboard.